back. Brought to you by our friends at LifeBridge Health Sports Medicine Institute. Had a great chat with Dr. Kevin Crutchfield this week about concussion and head-related injuries. They are your choice. World-class care wherever you happen to be there in Owings Mills at the Foundry. State-of-the-art facility, and Cal Ripken looks great on their billboards as well. We'll be talking more with the docs who serve the people at LifeBridge Health Sports Medicine Institute. Appreciate their sponsorship, as well as our friends at Sporticulture. The flowers around me on the WNST set can be ordered. They are a click away for the holidays, and if you happen to have a Kansas City Chiefs fan in your life or a Rock Chalk fan, you can send them some flowers as well as Ravens fans. They're at Sporticulture.com. I kid because my next guest is all of that out in Kansas City. I think I've known him for 2 decades. He hosts Between the Lines weekday afternoons from 2 until 6 on Sports Radio 810 WHB, where my pal Jeff Montgomery's been involved for a long time out there. I'm missing this trip out to Kansas City, Kevin, and I'm devastated about missing the Jack Stack barbecue. But I hear you're coming for Army-Navy this week, so bring me some barbecue east, man.
Oh, man, Nestor, great to be on with you, man. It's been too long. I'm headed to Army-Navy in Philadelphia this weekend, and we'll get back to Kansas City right about kickoff on Sunday, so I'm going to skip going to Arrowhead Park, but we'll be watching the game. This city's pretty fired up about this football team this year.
Kevin Kietzman's been doing it a long time. He's at Twitter. You can find him at KKWHB. This is the best Chiefs team in a long time, right? And you've been at this a long time, and you're probably going back to Montana, but maybe not as far as Dawson. I'm not sure. But the whole city's been waiting. The region's been waiting. And look, you and I got together a bunch during the Royals run and the Orioles and all that. The fans there are satiated on the baseball side now that the baseball side's gone back into the tank like we have with 115 losses. And in Baltimore, it's even more important that the Ravens do well because the Orioles aren't going to be winning anything anytime soon. The Chiefs have an opportunity, and I think this is sort of the beginning of this curve with this kid who looks special, but the 4 days that represent this weekend and next Thursday really represent a lot because a stumble here and you just go back to being a wild card team, man.
It is crazy how tight the AFC is right now, and it's interesting you mentioned the Orioles and the Royals. The Royals were a big deal here in 14 and 15, and they won the World Series in 15. And I think everybody in Kansas City was caught up in that, and they realized it was an unbelievable moment in time, and we always felt it was really special. Nobody thought it would last. Nobody thought those players would stay. Nobody thought the Royals would stay good forever. None of that. This feels completely different, Nestor. Everybody in Kansas City believes that this is a 15-year deal with Patrick Mahomes. A lot of folks here think Andy Reid can coach for 10 more years, and the Chiefs are going to get multiple shots at this thing. Now, how many times are you sitting there the first week of December, sitting on the 1 seed and a favorable schedule? Not very many. So they've got the chance this year. If the Chiefs get the 1 seed, I don't think anybody's going to beat them at Arrowhead this time. They've lost at home before in the playoffs. They've had problems with Alex Smith or other quarterbacks, Trent Green, whoever it may be, that weren't able to win in the postseason at Arrowhead, but this feels totally different this time. If they're playing at home, I think the Chiefs are going to be a big favorite.
Well, these are two teams in the Ravens this week, and then the Chargers come in on Thursday night, that if they beat you there, then have the confidence they can come back and win. Look, I'm not sure the Ravens are any good at all, and I'm not, I've never been sold on this offense. You talk about short-term and long-term. I feel the exact opposite about Lamar Jackson. There's no way he could survive running the way he runs for 15 years around here, despite the fact that he's obviously very special, but I feel like this is sort of Haley's Comet shooting star kind of thing, because I don't know that he's ever going to throw it well enough, consistently enough, and I'm afraid he's going to get crushed running into traffic 18, 20, 24 times a game with his frame. It is different, but I would say this: when you get an opportunity and something starts to work, and we're now moving away from a Super Bowl MVP quarterback around here, it is very, very different and exciting in a different way, but I don't know that it feels long-term, but it feels like what Luke Jones, my partner, says here: enjoy the madness while it's lasting, and this whole notion that you're going to run around 30, 40 times a game, maybe only throw it 15 or 20 times a game, and you're going to win consistently in the NFL. If the Ravens fall behind, that's when you see Joe Flacco this week or any week. But meantime, 31st ranked defense, you better figure out how to catch number 8 and get him down on the ground.
Well, the good news is Jackson's not going to get hurt this week because the Chiefs don't tackle. They tackle the ball. They don't tackle guys. So nobody gets hurt playing against them. Well, quarterbacks can get hurt, but only if they're in the pocket. The pass rush is tremendous. Dee Ford and Justin Houston are the best pass pressure pair in the NFL. They have more pressures than any edge tandem in the National Football League. Chiefs are really good at getting the quarterback. They're even better at it at home. They are awful at tackling in the open field. So that's really where you want Jackson to be this week, is out of the pocket and moving around. He probably has no chance of getting hit hard and getting any trouble doing it that way. So, look, I think the Kansas City perspective here, Nestor, is a little interesting that we've heard 2 or 3 times this year people have said, okay, this is a really good defense the Chiefs are going up against. We'll see what Mahomes has. We'll see what the Chiefs has. Every single game, they just go out and put 30-plus on the board, a lot of weeks 40. And we're thinking that again this week. But we've sat here and watched the Saints score 10 on Dallas. We watched Indy get blanked last week. And it makes you start thinking, okay, there's going to be a week at some point where the Chiefs don't score a whole bunch of points. And the only one I see on their schedule, and they do play at Seattle, but Seattle's giving up points too. I don't think that's going to be a low-scoring game in Seattle. I think Baltimore's recipe is to try to win this thing 23-20 this week. I don't know if anybody can hold the Chiefs to 20, but if anybody can, I guess it's the Ravens.
87 points they've surrendered in 2 football games, and you're talking about them winning the Super Bowl. We're in a different world, right? We're in a different era where, you can score 51 and they can score 54, which we saw 2 weeks ago, and yet we're running around here in some sort of weird wing tee, Navy. You might come and see Navy and Army. You'll see the Navy offense being run again on Sunday with the Ravens because it's so weird to see it in the NFL, and it's so sort of abrupt watching your quarterback go out there and, take kill shots from linebackers.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm no homer on the Chiefs either here, buddy. I'll be honest with you. These defensive numbers mean absolutely nothing for this football team. They've been up 19 points or more in 8 games this year. I mean, they just go out every week and build they were up 19 last week. They build big leads every week. So the fact that they give up a lot of points and a lot of yards doesn't really matter. When you're up 35 points on the 49ers, and they put 3 touchdowns on the board in the second half, who cares? And you look at the stats at the end of the day, and it just doesn't matter what the stats are. This team has had unbelievably large leads this year, and they've basically gone into what a lot of people used to call prevent defenses. We just here call it a soft zone is basically what they go into. They give up the middle of the field. They give up first downs. They allow the team to come down into the red zone, and then they see what happens. There's a lot of that in Kansas City. There have been very few times this year where the Chiefs have actually had to play defense. Now, a couple of those were on the road against New England and against the Rams, and they weren't able to stop those teams. So that could be a problem in the playoffs. I'm not saying it's not. But most weeks, week in and week out, the Raiders scored, 33 last week? The Raiders don't score 33 on anybody. Well, they wouldn't have scored 33 on the Chiefs if that was a close game. Chiefs went out and got a huge lead, never trailed, and the Raiders racked up a bunch of yards and points late. It's kind of what Phillip Rivers does for a living. The Chiefs have beaten the Chargers 9 times in a row. If you go look at his fourth quarter stats alone against the Chiefs in those 9 games, you won't believe what you see. But the Chiefs have had giant leads in all those games. Of course he's going to rack up numbers.
Kevin Kietzman has covered all things Chiefs in Kansas City and Rock Chalk and all that good stuff out in Kansas City, Missouri, as well as the Kansas side and parts near Overland Park. You can find him at KKWHB out on Twitter as well as at 810WHB.com. I don't know where you were on Friday when the poop hit the fan on the Kareem Hunt story. Certainly everybody in the business, everybody on the internet, everybody who's a fan saw it. I turned on the news on Friday night, saw Ray Rice talking. I'm like, what's happening here? And Lord knows he came out because of all of this. I don't know what it means psychologically to the team, but I know from a tactical standpoint, and I've talked about this all week, Joe Flacco still misses Ray Rice around here because we haven't had that kind of football player. And in Kareem Hunt, led the league in rushing last year. It's certainly a huge factor and worth 100, 150 yards a game. You're going to have to work through that, and it's not an injury where he's hanging around coming back. He's gone for good, never to come back, probably should, as it should be at this point. But that affects the football team, and that's something that you can't prepare for when you're running around and you're 10-1 or whatever it is, right?
No, and it was interesting because Patrick Mahomes is the first-year starter, and he called the team meeting, players only, and got them all together and said, look, we're staying together on this thing. Kareem was our brother, but he's gone. They genuinely liked him. He was not an issue at the facility as a practice player, as a teammate, or any of that stuff. This is not domestic violence. It is not Ray Rice. Kareem Hunt has a very, very serious alcohol problem. The Chiefs have known this for quite some time. He apparently had it in college. They have worked with him since he got here. They've tried to get him counseling. They've tried to help him. The incidents are mounting. There's now video of an incident that happened in January in Kansas City. There was another event in Ohio in June. Kareem Hunt goes out. He goes drinking, and when he does, he gets loud and obnoxious and starts pushing people. That's far different than domestic violence, in my opinion. it is a perfectly good reason to release a guy from the team, and the Chiefs have done the right thing here. This man definitely needs help, but this isn't like some of the other things. It's not even like his teammate Tyreek Hill, who was arrested and convicted of a crime while at Oklahoma State in college of punching his pregnant girlfriend in the stomach and strangling her. That is really, really dreadful, okay? So that's not what Kareem Hunt is. Kareem Hunt has a really serious drinking problem that I think he can clean up and figure out, but he's never going to play for the Chiefs again. They're moving on, and by the way, they ran for 180 yards last week without him. I mean, Andy Reid is really, really something. They're very creative. Tyreek Hill had 2 carries for 37 yards. Patrick Mahomes rushed for 50 yards. Spencer Ware came in, had 47 yards and a touchdown. They'll find a way to run the ball. Nobody on this team is Kareem Hunt. I wouldn't try to sell you that, but they'll find a way to run the football in this offense.
For you with Mahomes, at what point do you start to feel like he was special? I mean, you said on the radio talking about him all last year and Alex Smith and where it was going to be, and we're still trying to figure out our quarterback in Lamar Jackson, right? And it's been controversy on top of controversy here in regard to Flacco and what he represents and Lamar Jackson and how much money Flacco makes and what that would be next year. You don't have those arguments there yet, but you had all that on the Royals side, and you're talking about Mahomes winning championships and being sort of this every year they're going to have an opportunity. I don't know that you felt that way in August, right? I mean, this is all sort of new, and it is amazing how the star is born, has been born over the last 10, 12 weeks.
When Andy Reid traded Alex Smith, I basically said they're either about to win a Super Bowl or he's going to get fired. One or the other. I don't know why. Because Alex Smith was the number 1 rated passer in the league last year. Alex Smith is not even close to as talented as Patrick Mahomes. Alex Smith is a good player. He's a very good player. He's a great guy and a great teammate and all those things. Mahomes has got something special about him. But a couple of things here. If Mahomes was sitting in Arizona right now where Josh Rosen is, I don't think people would be talking about Patrick Mahomes as special right now. What he's got around him here and the coaching system that he has are allowing him to be special this early in his career. As the season has gone on, I think he's getting worse. Now, this is a guy that threw 4 touchdowns and no interceptions last week, and I think he's getting worse. He's starting to take chances he shouldn't take. He's missing on deep balls. He's getting riskier and riskier and riskier as the weeks go by, and I think it's because he's getting more and more confident. I think as he's won some games, the stats have racked up. He's heard people talk about how great he is. I think he's taking more chances and believing he can get away with it, and what I'm seeing is he's throwing a lot of passes that should be intercepted that aren't. He had all those turnovers against the Rams. He truly is getting worse as the season goes on, but if 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions is getting worse, I think in Kansas City we'll take that.
Kevin Kietzman does all things Kansas City sports out in Missouri and Kansas on WHB 810. You can follow him out on Twitter as well at KKWHB. All of our WNST programming brought to you by our friends at Strategic Factory. That's marketing, printing, promotional materials, branded apparel, logo designs, giveaways for your workplace. I'll tell you what, but they put the strategy behind it. That's why you need Strategic Factory. Learn more what they do at strategicfactory.com. Also, our friends at the Model Lyric, where John Mellencamp's going to be bringing it in on February the 20th and Joe Bonamassa on March 15th. My wife is interested in Dancing with the Stars on January the 10th. If the Ravens aren't playing in Kansas City or someplace like that, perhaps we'll get there for that as well. Also, comedy. Jim Gaffigan showing up on February the 8th. More shows. George Lopez as well. Model Lyric, there's always magic there. Learn more at model-lyric.com. Kev, for you with the defense and not tackling well in space and Lamar Jackson, is this a nightmare matchup with the Ravens coming in as it's presented and as the defense has been presented now the last couple of weeks? Because the offense keeps our defense off the field. That's a whole different thing than 3 and out, which we had a lot of around here in a passing game.
It could be real problematic tackling him as he's running around. I think the people that I've talked to at Arrowhead are glad that he's played a couple free games, and they can look at some tendencies or at least see what they've been doing. I think there'd be a lot more concern if this was his first game that he was playing. Flacco's a known commodity, and, there would obviously, be a lot of familiarity with that. I think they feel pretty good that there's been a couple games now that they can look at the tapes and see what the tendencies are. I think what the Chiefs will do with their pass rush this week is try to contain him in the pocket instead of being overly aggressive trying to get the sack. They'll be a little bit concerned about big scrambles. Chiefs defense does get better in the red zone when the field gets shorter because they're not great across the board in the secondary, which is where the real weakness is here. It gets better when the field is smaller. That stands to reason. The front seven for the Chiefs is just fine. The pass rush is terrific. Their defensive line is great. It's the secondary that's the real problem. If Jackson gets out of there or anybody gets past the linebackers, it's all day long. There is nobody really physical in that secondary that will line up and tackle you. They will try to run down the field with you and pull the ball away from you while you get 12 more yards. It's really kind of funny to watch. So that's where you want to get. You want to get the ball past the linebackers. Get 7 yards downfield on the Chiefs defense. You're probably getting 12 more.
Tell you what, man, we're in for a treat here this week, and for us, we were 4-5, right? Season was over. Harbaugh's getting fired. Flacco's gone. All that stuff happens. Then Flacco gets hurt with a hip injury, and we've had a second life breathed into this thing, and it was pretty impressive to watch them go down there and shut down Matt Ryan and control the game and do what they do, as well as using special teams and some trickery and all of that. I am fascinated, and it would be interesting to hear your take when Flacco comes back. If it's your team in your town and you do sports radio for a living, it's a fascinating case because they made the case all summer that what they wanted was Joe and Lamar. Now they have Lamar and no Joe, but to your point, if the Chiefs have a 21-3 lead at halftime and Joe Flacco's healthy, that still would give them their best chance to win. And I've said all along, Joe Flacco has not thrown his last meaningful pass for the Ravens, to my way of thinking. I don't think that he's done. I don't think Lamar just leads this team into January nice and easily. I think at some point you're going to have to throw the ball, and when that happens, bad things are going to happen here.
I agree with you. I think for the Ravens long term, if Lamar Jackson's their guy, he has to become a passing quarterback first and run only as a second option, not really as a staple. Mahomes had 2 or 3 called runs last week, which were unusual. They don't really do those here in Kansas City, but with Kareem Hunt out, they did. There was nobody on that Raiders defense assigned to him. He got 12 yards and ran out of bounds every time they called a bootleg. It was like stealing. Now, I'm not talking about those with Lamar Jackson. If you got that, that's great. But if he's going to be a guy that runs it too many times, I'm with you. You can only take so many hits in this league. You can't do it. He's going to have to become a passing quarterback. So if you're asking me for 1,500 miles away, Joe Flacco's won a Super Bowl throwing the football. Lamar Jackson hasn't proven any of that to me at this point. So if you're telling me he can develop into a great passing quarterback and a guy that can win Super Bowls is a pass-first guy and a run-second guy, then I'd say he's got a chance. But I'm no expert in Lamar Jackson at this point. All I know is Flacco's got the hardware.
You will be by 4 o'clock on Eastern Time on Sunday, an expert on Lamar Jackson, and I guess that's why they play the games. This is an interesting football game. It's an interesting matchup. It's an interesting time of the year. I think it's an interesting time to be going there on the back end of Kareem Hunt. So I'm excited about it. It's really good to catch up with you, man. I guess, we miss each other these days because our baseball teams don't ever bring us together anymore, right? I mean, we've got the new geniuses in town. I'm handing out copies of Astro Ball around here now that the Orioles have extracted that. What's the great blue hope in Kansas City on the baseball side, Kev?
Nothing immediately. They're in a rebuild stage here. They got a lot of younger players. They're trying to get rid of the contracts of Alex Gordon in left field and Ian Kennedy in the starting rotation. Those guys are going to make about $40 million between them this year. That's just too much in Kansas City for 2 guys that are dead weight. Those contracts are finished after this upcoming season. They're getting younger and younger every day. They got a couple of really nice young players that are really cheap at this point that they like. They're just trying to rebuild the thing. I got to think it's going to be at least 2020, maybe 2021 before the Royals are even relevant again and can get back over 500.
My man, take care out there. Enjoy your sports radio while your team is in first place and has the number 1 seed and is qualifying for the bye. It may be short-lived, but I tell you what, a win this week and a win over the Chargers, and I would start to think that you and I could be spending some time together in Atlanta in a few weeks. So I'll believe it when I see it, though. But look, Andy Reid and John Harbaugh getting together again this week, there's no one that roots against Andy Reid, right? No one I know. I think people kind of root for him and hope that this kid's special. I just hope that our kid's more special for 3 hours on Sunday.
We'll see what happens. Should be a really good game. We're expecting a good one here. It's going to be probably about 35 degrees, kind of cold at Arrowhead, but it should be a great game, and I would love to see you in Atlanta, my friend.
Bring barbecue, please. Please, bring barbecue.
Will do, for sure.
Kevin Kietzman joining us here, our old pal from WHB and 810 out in Kansas City. You can follow him at KKWHB out on Twitter. We're getting ready for football this week, as well as the Terps in town at the Royal Farms Arena. We got hockey and football and basketball. No baseball, though. The winter meetings this week. I don't think the Orioles are in line to sign Machado or Harper. but we will be monitoring it and talking about baseball as well around here. All things in Owings Mills. Luke Jones is on all of it out there. You'll get it all first on the WNST text service. If the Orioles hire a manager, any breaking news on injuries, or Joe Flacco, make sure you're on that. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.